Easy, thanks so much for taking the time to do this today. How you doing, man?
Um, all right. With all that's going on, just trying to keep my head as clear as possible. But just a really tough time right now.
Yeah, for sure. I think if this is okay with you, what I thought we could do is we could sort of start with things on a macro level as far as what's going on in the country today and also around the world, and then sort of focus that down into what's going on with CrossFit.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
my first question is just to you is what has this last week been like for you?
A lot of tears shedded, a lot of anger and um, frustration and rage. It's thinking of different scenarios and different things, and just it's a lot of frustration with the country in general, and where people stand, and their views, and where we're at to have come so far where we're still at, where we're still at is just tough. But I was just, man, you're just enraged, you're just upset, like just mad, and you try to find ways to calm yourself down or to think logically, but it's just so hard. Like, so been just a ton of emotions, but the number ones is just rage, anger.
And I know this is tough, but as a husband and a father, what are maybe a few of the things that really stand out in your mind in terms of the emotions? Like, how does that rage manifest itself? And what are some of the things that you've seen that have taken place that maybe concern you for your role, obviously as a protector of your family, as a father, as a husband, and your place in the community?
Yeah, man, it's that has been the hardest thing. I'm not a psychologist by any means, but I really, really focus on how things are being thought out, how you process and how you react to a lot of things. When I was in college and I was about to have a kid, my senior year in college, I went and took adolescent psychology classes because I was just, I want to know how my child is going. I want to know how they function, how they grow, at what ages do they start to learn and take in certain things and do certain things. I was so intrigued by the growth of children, as to why I have so many, right? I was so involved in that stage of it. And now it's just become to a point where it's like, I don't want to threaten, I don't want to take my kids by having to have conversations with them, teach them certain things about the way someone looks when they are innocently not worried about color of your skin, if you have a badge, if you're like, they don't care. And now I have to have these uncomfortable conversations and protocols that if this happens, this is what you do. If we're in this situation, this is how you behave. And it's very uncomfortable and it's very heartbreaking because I don't want my child to look at a police officer a certain way when a police officer has never done nothing to my child or never done nothing to me. But it's like, man, I gotta make sure everybody's safe and I gotta make sure everybody clearly understands what's happening and what's going on. And I have to find a way to protect them.
You mentioned, the rage and, all the emotions that are going on right now. And I think for a lot of people, this is the first time while they've been aware of the problem. I think this is the first time that it has really hit home to where they are feeling a lot of the same things that you're going through right now. Where do we start to not only just get ourselves out of this current predicament, but to actually make some meaningful progress?
Yeah, so that's a really, really tough question, right? And there's multiple places that we can start. Right? Let's take the biggest stage which is financial empowerment of Black people, giving us allowing us to be able to gain wealth in the same manner, the same way a white person can gain wealth because of their skin. Give us that same opportunity. Don't deny us that opportunity. That's on the larger scale, on a bigger scale, right? And that's the hard part that most people don't see and think about, right? Where it's like, because you're Black, it's going to be harder for you to get a big business loan. Because you're Black, it's going to be harder for you to go into a bank and get the loan or get the money to be able to empower yourself and others. That's on the drastic scale. On the other scale is what we all have control over, right? and that's our home. That is where it starts. So if you follow my post, the first post I put out was on Facebook, and it says, does your child have a black dog? And I was pertaining to my white friends. Does your child have anything in their hands, in their possession, that they can touch, play with, see on a daily basis that is not white, that is not of their privilege? Why is this important? If your child sees nothing in their first interaction with a black person, is not the best one or not a good one, or puts a certain, you're now conditioning that child to then think a certain way, to be a certain way. My first post was, what are we doing in the household so that your kids know different races, from Hispanic to black to Asian? They recognize them, they understand them, and they know, I'm not going to treat this doll different from these dolls because this doll is this color. Just simple things being conditioned. It's taking yourself out of your bubble and applying it for the greater cause. And I don't think a lot of people understand that we're all conditioned in some type of way, no matter what. So that means if I'm black and I put my daughter in a black school around black kids with reading black books and black history, by the time she hits 17, 18 years old, she's going to be an outstanding black woman that only speaks and talks black and only stands for black. And when a white person approaches her a certain way, she may not know how to take or understand where they come from. So that was my first post. That's where I think is a huge way to start the topic, make it uncomfortable, get kids understanding and learning more about it. But it's just, even though we don't have segregation and we're allowed to, when you think about a school, it's like you go to a black school with minorities, or you go to a private school or something like that with whites. You go to church in a black church, or you go to church in a white church. So even though we don't have it and it's not really seen or spoke about, it's still there. And your child is taking note. So that's one of the places that we can start, along with taking away what they call white privilege, and allowing black people to be able to stand toe to toe with someone of a different race, in giving us things like laws, giving us things that protect us, that help us, that keep us in a position where we actually feel safe or maybe feel free. And these are the things that aren't talked about. These are the things that people don't see, don't recognize. And those are some starts to me where we can jumpstart the conversation, get things going, and then push for those changes.
And Easy, in hearing you say a lot of those things, I feel like it maybe reinforces something that has kind of stood out to me, at least, is I feel like there's an identification and an education problem that is rampant within this space. You lay out a few of those things, segregation may not exist, but it does in many other ways that we can't identify yet, that we just take as natural or as fact, whether it's, going to separate churches, or, neighborhood, gentrification of neighborhoods, or, the placement of neighborhoods. And the conversations that I've seen over the last couple of days is a lot of people don't understand the roots of, I guess, systemic racism in our country and how that manifests itself today. And so I'm kind of curious that, maybe taking from your experience, like how are you able to translate that to someone like your children or people that come to you that looking for a way to just, I don't know, maybe even open their eyes up a little bit?
So it was funny because I made a post and I saw someone say something to Annie. Annie Thor's daughter made a comment on my post, and we're very, very close friends. Like, outside of CrossFit, I communicate with her, she communicates with me, and me and Frederick probably communicate more than me and Annie, right? Mm-hmm. Someone made a comment, and I got so mad because I was like, she's not even from this country. She has no clue. Like, you're talking to someone that honestly and genuinely doesn't really know. And even though she may know, she doesn't know the drastic measures of what happened. So I think the form of education comes from, of course, the schoolings. And when we talk about things like this, and this is where it gets very, very touchy and people don't really want to hear it, systematically done. You can't walk into any, just to give you we have a Black History Month. Like, we have a month. The rest of the months out of the year, you're teaching Black kids, white kids, Asian kids, whoever's in the schooling about American history that has nothing to do with the Black culture. So therefore, when you're talking to someone that is Black and the only thing you know about Black people is slavery, you're automatically telling me the only thing you think I am is submissive. The only thing you think I've done is served. Because that's all you've talked about. That's all you've taught. That's all you taught. And then you bring in the Malcolm X's or the Martin Luther King Jr.'s and the Rosa Parks. Yeah, we get that. But there's a lot of history that is missing in these books. There's a lot of history that is gone that people don't get to see. They don't get to learn about. And so the reason why I go back to starting in the household and updating people on history, it's like, it's all on Google. Like, you will clearly see where this country came from, how it stood it the way it is right now. And it's systematically done to Black people to keep us oppressed and in a position where we can't keep up. We can't get it. And don't get me wrong, there are tons of Black people that have broke that, have stood out, that have found a way, that have done it. But when we're talking, we're not talking about the one individuals that have done it. We're talking about a system that does not work in our favor.
Easy. One thing that, I've been thinking about this last week is, I've always considered myself as, I'm not racist, but now I realize, that's probably not enough for people who look like me. And we need to get off the bench and we need to do something. But I don't know what that is specifically and where people like me can be of the most use. So for someone like me, who, I don't want to say this has been an eye-opening experience for me, because I understand that this goes on, but this one feels different. And you touched on this a little bit, but what can we do? Where can we be, of help and help enact meaningful change here?
Yeah. So here's the one thing. I tell people all the time, it's a really tough and touchy situation. You may not say the right things. That's okay. But I tell people all the time, I know we've heard this slogan, like, it's all about who you know, right? If you're a basketball player, you probably heard it. If you play sports, you've heard this slogan. It's like, it's all about who you know. Like, you want to get on a professional team, you better know the right coaches, know the right people. It's all about who you know. So therefore, using your platform and posting, don't think I'm not doing it, this isn't enough, or this isn't getting the point across. What using your platform does is, because you probably know someone can make that change. You probably know someone, right? We use the term in our gym that you have 5 influences, right? 5 people that are going to follow you, do whatever you're going to do. Hey, man, I'm about to go commit a crime. You got 5 people that are like, man, you know what? That sounds, I might do it with you. You can get them to persuade them and talk to them because they care that much about you. They're there for you with whatever you want. So therefore, when you use your platform, white people in general, to speak about it, it lets everyone know where you stand as a person. Therefore, now their ears are going to open a little bit more to hear what you have to say. And then that trickles along, and then the changes start happening, the effects start happening, because I know a couple millionaires. I know a couple people that are millionaires. Like, I used to work for High Tint. High Tint manufactures the bumper plates. Like, he's a stand-up guy. But if I never speak up, he doesn't know where I stand. It may not spark him to speak up. But if I say something and he's like, man, Easy used to work for me. Easy's an outstanding person. It may spark him to say, you know what? I'm going to go here and do this, or I'm going to say something. And then that touches my friends. And then we open the conversation up of how we can make a systematic change for the African-American community, for the Black people. So it's not so much that you are making the change by posting on your social media, but it's so much of like, I'm letting everyone in my inner circle, aunts, uncles, cousins, nieces, nephews, everyone, people that are close to me that may not see my view, but I'm letting them know where I stand. And then that may we're all human. We all can be persuaded. From a child, we're being persuaded to follow Christianity or Islam. We're being persuaded to like Black people or not like Black people. We're being persuaded to want to always buy the Jordans and have nice clothes and shoes. We're always being persuaded. So as a human, the mind functions that way, and we're able to take in what we're being signaled. And especially when you involve, sorry, it's my clock. especially when you involve love and care. So when you start posting on your platform about an injustice that's happening, not to one person, but to multiple people, that lets everyone know where you stand. That trickle effects, it opens the door for the conversation to happen with someone else, someone else, and someone else. And as a collective whole, we then start changing things like the systematic injustice that's happening against Black people.
Yeah, I think you make a great distinction there, because in some conversations that I've had with some friends, almost the fear of saying the wrong thing at times can outweigh the justification for saying something at all, and they feel like saying the wrong thing is almost worse, so they don't even open up to start to create the dialogue. And I think in the last few days, at least, one of the nice things that I think more and more people the environment has been created, unfortunately, through some hardships, that more and more people are actually willing to take that first step, at least, to open up. And now I've seen at least more dialogue in the last maybe 48 hours than the last couple of years. But I want to talk a little bit about your particular upbringing. And you grew up in Ohio, right? Columbus area?
Yep, Columbus, Ohio.
Junior college in South Chicago area, Illinois. And then college in Tennessee, and you're in Iowa now. So you've been all over the Midwest. And I'm just kind of curious what your experience, your own personal experience as growing up as a Black man in the United States has been, and how that kind of paints your viewpoint of everything that's going on right now.
Moved around a lot. Lived in New York, lived in Las Vegas, lived a little bit of everywhere. My mom was an Islamic woman growing up as a child. My father was a minister in the Nation of Islam, and he was a pastor in the church. So I had a lot of teachings from a very young age to stand alone, be different, stand out, and not really worry about what other people think. Even though these teachings were there, you still think, what are other people going to think? How are other people going to view me, right? So answering your question, it's like, I was raised in a poverty-stricken area. Was nothing else to do but commit crimes, sell drugs, play sports. The basic things that you hear in your normal rap songs, right? It's these people are speaking from experience. But growing up, I got a chance to evolve. I got a chance to take opportunity. I was a very, very logical thinker from a young age, where it was like, I'm not going to follow the crowd, but I'm going to create the crowd that I want. And it's just all instilled from me from my mom, from my mother that raised me, my sisters that were around me. As I got to do this, I got to see other parts. Remember, I'm raised in an all-Black neighborhood, all-Black school. There's a few white kids. But as I got to go out and groom myself and figure out, like, okay, this is where I want to be a year from now. This is where I want to be 10 years from now. I got to experience other cultures, other races. Along with now doing CrossFit, I've got to leave the country and experience other cultures and other races. So I've kind of grown to kind of be like, okay, I get everyone's point of view. Like I'm going to be compassionate with everyone. At the end of the day, it all comes with, even though I may view something a different way, I'm still going to put myself in your shoes and be compassionate with the way you feel, the way you believe in things you're going to do. It may not be for me, and that means I may have to step away from what you're doing, but you are human and you have the right to do that. So it just comes from moving around, thinking openly, and just being in the atmosphere of, multiple different cultures.
I got a question actually from my wife. She and I have been talking a lot about this, and the reason being that she is in law enforcement. She was a police officer on the street for 5 years, and anytime something like this happens, we always discuss it. And she is one of those people who watched what happened in Minneapolis and was horrified by it. It's like that. There is no reason, that is inexcusable. So her question was, she wanted to know if you've had, and I'm guessing you have, a negative interaction with someone in law enforcement, and if you've had a positive interaction. Because when we were talking, she was saying, she said, I don't think I've been around racism in law enforcement. She goes, I'm probably naive. So I need to learn. So what's been the negative interaction? What's been the positive? So maybe people who are out there who are in law enforcement who are listening to this can say, okay, this is how I need to approach a certain, if I have to interact with someone of a different skin color, this is how I need to conduct myself.
Yeah. So growing up in Columbus, Ohio, I had a few encounters with the police. My mother was a very well-known woman in the community. I was a very well-known basketball player in the community. So, of course, with status, you get treated differently. Or I mean, not say differently, but differently. I'm gonna say differently. So I had a certain status that allowed me to maybe not be treated the same, just depending on where I'm at or what was going on. 2 incidents I had with the police that were a scary encounter. I didn't even tell my mom about one because I didn't want her to freak out. My mom was like, I'm going to the mirror and I'm gonna shut the city down. Like she doesn't play. So one incident I had, I got pulled over by the police officer because I guess a robbery had happened and the vehicle matched my vehicle. So I got pulled over by the police. They pulled us over at gunpoint. We got out the car and he put me in handcuffs, told me to sit down. I listened to everything he said. It went smoothly. And I told him, I was like, I don't know what's going on. He's like, your vehicle matches the vehicle that we are looking for. Asked me a few questions. Come find out it wasn't my vehicle. It wasn't my car. He released us, told us to have a good day. That was it. Scary situation. We were headed to the mall. Just wrong place, wrong time. He could have been more violent. He could have been more aggressive. He was not. He put us in handcuffs, detained us, checked my car, asked me what I was doing, where I was going, called for backup, the basics. And of course, we're freaked out thinking the worst, but nothing happened. He sent us on our way and we continued on. The other encounter I had was a cop pulled me over. We broke into a school. We broke into a high school. It was a party that we had, and we were about to get in a fight. And we were in a situation. We had left the party early, rival neighborhoods. Me being who I was, I knew the boys I hung out with, but I knew the people that we were about to fight. Like I knew the guys that we were getting into it with. In a heated altercation, I suggested that we play one-on-one basketball. Like who can beat me one-on-one from your side? Like we don't got to fight, but just let me know who can beat me. One of my friends said, hey, I got the key or the code to the high school. We can get in high school. So we went to high school and settled things, playing basketball. While we were doing that, a shooting had happened at the party we had just. So police, helicopters, everybody was up. And we heard the helicopters and we thought they found out we maybe set a trip alarm or silent alarm or something. Of course, so we didn't know a shooting had happened, but we come flying out the high school. It's like 3 of us running out the high school and it's police everywhere. They get the call, find out that it's us, and I'm in mid-sprint running and something told me to stop. I don't know why. I know for sure they would not have caught me. There was no doubt in my mind. It's like, they're not going to catch us, at least they're not going to catch me. But something told me to stop. And I stopped, I'm back against the wall, and the cop pulled up on me. It was so funny because he was trapped in his seatbelt. He's like, don't you fucking move. Don't you have to move. And he popped the seatbelt off, grabbed me, slammed me on the hood of the car, put me in handcuffs, and he said, sit on the curb, sit down, don't move. And they went chasing my friends, and he's like, what are you guys doing? Asking me some questions. I'm like, oh, playing basketball. He's like, well, it was just a shooting at the party. No, 2 rival things. One person's hurt. And I was like, hey, listen, we weren't even at that party. Of course, that's a lie, but in the terms of the situation, I was like, we weren't even at the party. We were here playing basketball. We were just trying to have some fun and hang out. They took me downtown. We sat in the jail cell for 5 hours. Mom sent a friend of hers to come get me. We got out. That was the end of it. Those were the 2 incidents where I've actually been in a situation where I've been in handcuffs and stuff by the police. The rest of them were just knickknacks. I got pulled over, but nothing. I've never been in a situation where it was like life-threatening or upset. I always keep the main rule, like show respect, get respect. The moment I feel disrespected is the moment I'm gonna speak differently to you, whether you're a police officer or not. But I always try to show as much respect as possible, and I end up getting it back. Unfortunate cases in other people's situations wasn't the same. But in my situations personally, I've never had an encounter with a police officer that was forcefully or aggressive. I've had a police officer be a douche. I've had a police officer be a dick to me, you know what I'm saying? But I've never been racially spoken to in a racial manner, and I've never been aggressive in an aggressive situation, in my saying, which makes me feel a lot better for me, but still doesn't calm my nerves about the situations that are going on, which that's where it gets scary, where it's like, I've never been in a situation, but I'm still scared. Why am I scared if I've never encountered a situation? That's the confusion and the hardship that I'm dealing with personally, where it's like, I might get pulled over, make sure my license registration is in eyesight so I don't have to reach anywhere. So I don't have to not show my hands to the police, make sure the kids are all buckled in, strapped in. Yana, make sure your phone is just somewhere on record as a safety valve. Like, it's like, why do I have to take these protocols and feel this way? I've never personally actually been harassed or in a situation.
And well, you bring up an interesting point, because I feel like, I think in general, and, you know, I'll say personally, I feel I in many ways, I feel that same way, particularly in California, because of like the Hispanic relations within California. But there's this common sentiment that in talking with people, that in order to feel safe, it almost feels like at times minorities have to go above and beyond what is asked of others, and it can be it can wear on you. It can get to feel like a chore. Like, why am I constantly being held to a higher standard just to get the same treatment as someone else? And I think that in turn can ultimately lead to people acting out and people, you know, breaking at some point. I think we're seeing that to some extent with some of the responses to everything that's going on, whether it's the protests, the rioting, the some of the discourse that's going on social media. And I'm just kind of curious, like, what are your thoughts on that concept that, you know, that in order to earn equality, that the minorities have to behave in an unequal manner to earn that?
Yeah. It has to be a systematic change. You have to give Black people a law. You have to give Black people something to stand by, to feel comfortable. There has been no laws to protect Black people. And we were here first. And we were the people here in slavery to build and to start what we now have. It's like, it's not just today, but it's like you arguing with your significant other. It's like, why are you bringing up the past? You know, we're past that. It's like, well, once the argument comes up again, it's like, what do I have to fall back on? I have nothing else but the past. If you acted this way before, that's all I have to fall on. So in order to make the change, it's like, everyone else has a law. Everyone else has a law to be protected. There's nothing specifically for Black people. And it's scary because now we're in a state of enraged. And like, I sit and think about it and I'm like, keep going. Like, if I didn't have kids, my wife, we would have suited up and I would have been down there too. Maybe not looting and breaking stuff, but I would have been standing toe to toe with any police officer that wanted to try me or challenge me, because I was so enraged. I have logical people around me to talk to me and calm me down and get me to think. But I can imagine 18-year-old Easy in Columbus, Ohio. It's like, hey, send a text message to everybody, suit up, we heading downtown. It's like, let's do it. Like, because you're enraged, and the rage doesn't come. The tipping of the iceberg, yes, was a situation that happened. That was like the flip. let alone COVID just happened. Everybody's out of jobs. Everybody's losing money. Everybody's broke and starving and trying to figure out a way. So it's like, you just put these two things back to back, and then, you know, you got all the other situations that are still fresh. You know, like Brianna just died. Like we're not forgetting these things that are still fresh along with everything that happened before. It's like, okay, it's time to let go. Like it's time to, I don't want anyone trying to talk logic into me. These looters, these people that are going crazy, don't get me wrong. Like some of them are doing it because it's an opportunity. It's like, I get an opportunity to do it. Most of these people are just so frustrated where you could sit them down and say, hey, this is not the right way. And it just literally goes one ear and out the other. I'm not trying to hear that. I'm upset.
It seems almost like and it makes total sense when you say that, because it almost seems irrational for people to think that, say, like you say it's 18-year-old Easy that, you know, decides to, you know, call up all of his people and be like, hey, let's go down there. Let's get ready. It seems silly, almost, and illogical to assume that for those 18 years, right, you lived in a society where there's systematic oppression and almost like this slow titration of racism and prejudice that may not be so overt that it brings about something like this has now, but it is constantly kind of, you know, in talking to one of my buddies, he says it feels like I'm constantly walking around wearing a weight vest. He's like, you wear a weight vest for Murph on a Monday, but I wear it every day, and it over time it just wears on you. Sure, you get better about managing it and weighing it sometimes, but sometimes you just can't escape that extra 20, 25 pounds that's sitting on your chest. And for some of those younger people that haven't matured, or maybe haven't been given the tools to be able to cope with that yet, to imagine that someone being like, hey, you shouldn't react like this, or you shouldn't respond with rage, just seems foolish, because you're trying to basically put a Band-Aid over a knife wound, and it's you're not meeting the scale of with which the inequities and the injustices that the people that have been served for, I don't know, basically the extent of their life.
So I asked a question on my Instagram, I post, and I said, what if it were me? And the reason why I asked the question is because no one wants to think about it until it's someone that's close to you. If I have a big following on social media, you follow me for inspiration because I interact with my kids a certain way, because I love my family and my wife a certain way, because I'm a good basketball player. You follow me for some reason that it can motivate you, it can get you a spark in you, or you just like seeing that positivity in your life. So I asked the question, what if it were me? Because that's the next step, is I have to touch your heart. I have to emotionally tie what's going on into you. I can't say, look what happened to George. If you don't know George, you're going to stand back and be like, oh, you know, it's another incident that happened. It's like, what if that was me? The man tried to pay with something and they said it was counterfeit money. What did he do wrong? Like, what did he do? Even if it was counterfeit money, even if the money was fake, is this a grand jury felony? Like, is he, like, it's $20. So it's like, what if that was me? That could have happened to anyone. That could have been me, where I got a fake $20 bill, got some change back, got some fake money, and tried to pay for something. Someone's like, it's fake. And I'm like, oh, no, it's not. Like, why would I have fake money? Like, I work hard. Like, no, it's not. Next thing you know, the police are calling on me, and I'm on the ground with a knee in my head. What if it were me? Would you speak up? Would you say something? Would it bother you enough? And so my job was not to only bring awareness, but it was tap into your emotions and your feelings of, like, if it's someone you know, then you speak up. When it's, I'm hanging out with you and we're all kicking in, we're at the CrossFit Games, and someone walks up like, look at this nigga. It would make you so uncomfortable that you would feel like, I gotta fucking say something. But if I say something, it may be flipped. Like, oh, this guy's mad, he's black, or he's raging, or he's trying to start something. But it would be so uncomfortable to you that you would be like, hey, no, you don't gotta say anything. I'm gonna handle this one. And so it's like, the question of me asking that was for you to stand up for not only something, but someone that you care about, that you know. And if you don't care that much, that's fine. Don't do anything. That's cool. Hit the unlike button or continue to like me. Follow me. I don't care. It's up to you. But the reason why I posted was get these conversations happen to people that do know me, that have been around me, that had the conversation with me. Because it's hard to understand something if it's never happened to you, and it will never happen to you.
You know, I look around at everything that's happening in the images that we see, and it is very hard to be hopeful about anything right now. But there are things that you see that I think are counter to that. You know, I look at the image from Louisville where the 7 protesters protected the one police officer who had been separated from his unit, made sure no harm came to him. I see, you know, it was awesome. That's good. I get goosebumps talking about it. I see the sheriff in Flint, Michigan, you know, who walked with the protesters. And I try to hang on to that to say to myself, you know what, there is good here. There are people who are trying to do the right thing. Sometimes you have to look a little harder to find them. But what are the things that you hang on to right now to give yourself some sense of hope that we can not only get through this, but get through this and make things better?
Family, man. Like, I don't know, man. I try to do my best to be as positive as possible to my kids and teach them the right way. Make sure they understand compassion and love no matter what, and choose hate as the last option possible. And I just don't want to steer them into something that I know isn't right. That's my only hope, is knowing that if I flip the switch and I choose to rage and I choose to hate and I choose to dislike, that they're going to see that, they're going to react off that, and that's going to become their reality. And so that's what I use for, like, I can't go that way. Inside of me, I told my wife multiple times, like, fuck it, black out, let's go. Like, get your mask, get black. Like, I just want to go down. I just need to be in the area. Well, I know being in the area is going to allow me and make me not think logically. I don't want to go down and have a peaceful, I don't want to think like peaceful protest. Like, I want you to try me. I'm in a state where it's like, I want you to test me. And that's what happens when you're just so mad and so upset. So I haven't been down to any of the protests because it's like, I got to make sure I'm in a good state, logically thinking, and being able to know, like, I'm going to go down here, I'm going to do what's needed to be done, and then I'm going to come back. Also, that's why I use my social media platform to speak how I feel and to talk to people and to interact with people. My members talk to me about the situation, allow me to get this rage out and how I feel out so that we can have a good conversation, have class, and have a good day. They get it. They understand it. Even if they don't get it, at least they care about me enough to be like, yo, how you feeling? Like, let it out, like, talk to it. But it's like, the only hope I have is, like, I don't want my kids to fall into the trap of, and I fucking hate white people because they're white.
Yeah.
Gotta be very, very cautious of how I react, how I think, and what I actually say to them. Because even though I'm saying it with good intentions, the hardest part about being a parent, the hardest part about teaching in the psychology side of things, you don't know how your child is going to react or take something. You can't dictate that. You can give them all the positive love that you want. You don't know how their mind is going to interpret something or take something. You can give them all the facts, all the, hey, we've been oppressed, we've been this and that, and we're still fighting it. It's okay, you'll be okay. And lead it with, hey, love everyone at the end. You just told them everything that speaks. I shouldn't like this type of person. So you gotta be really, really cautious and careful about what you're bringing to the table. And that's my only hope, is like raising up good children that believe in that they will be okay, that things will get better.
And I think you touched on something very important there, because I think people struggle with the concept that their anger or their frustration is justified, but B, that they don't necessarily have to go out and let that dictate into physical actions that could potentially make the situation worse. And I think that's a very tough line for a lot of people to to walk in this instance. And I think I'll say straight away, I appreciate you sharing that. That's personal struggle with that, because I think a lot of people don't know how to remedy that. They feel this internal frustration and anger, and they're like, well, if it's justified, that means I have to go do this. When those two things can both be true, I don't have to go out physically and do something that will ultimately bring harm or something bad upon my family. But at the same time, these feelings that I feel are valid and emotionally justified based on my experience. So I wanted to clarify that, because I could personally feel that, and and I appreciate you sharing that. But
you ever seen the TV show Snapped?
Say that again?
No.
Have you ever seen the TV show Snapped? It's like women killing their husbands.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah.
I'm just like, the reason why I say it and the reason why I use things like this is because in order to get someone to understand you, you have to put them in a scenario that they may have gone through. You're never going to be black, so you may not ever get it. But just imagine if a woman is beaten all her life, told she's not worth anything, put in a position where she can't do anything for herself, can't build anything, can't go anywhere, can't have friends. It's going to become a point. And women have been through this multiple times. Men have been through it, but it doesn't just snap right away. It's like, oh, I can bear through this. I can fight through this. I can push through this. Like, it'll be okay. You start telling yourself these things over and over and over again. You start believing like it's going to change and it's going to happen. And then it doesn't. And it's like, okay, the only way to get out of the situation is to fight my way out. The only way to fix what's happening is to kill or hurt or loot or do things that aren't rational thinking. The average human doesn't wake up thinking rationally like, oh man, I got to kill something today. Like, it's just not rational thinking. Yeah. But now you force someone to think irrational and not want to hear any type of rational thinking, any type of compassion. They don't want to hear it. So it's like, okay, well, we gonna fuck up whatever we can fuck up. Like, sorry for cussing. We gonna mess up whatever we can mess up. We're gonna burn down whatever we can burn down. Anyone that wants to step toe to toe with me, this is the type of energy I want, and that's what's happening, and it sucks.
Yeah, it's a tough situation where, you know, it's my grandpa used to use the analogy that, like, if you back an animal into a corner, you can't be mad. Like, you can't be mad when it suddenly snaps back at you. You know, it's like you put that in a lose-lose situation, and they're doing what the only option that they have left. And so it's your responsibility to understand that when that situation is beginning to devolve, and try and remove yourself from that, and B, understand that when in translation, when that person or that someone reacts because you've backed them into that corner, that, you know, understand they're not doing it as of anything outside of a last resort. And that brings a little bit different level of comprehension and, I guess, empathy to a situation that can, I mean, on the surface level is unfortunate and just not anything anyone wants to be in, you know. Which is tough. I want to touch on something that is another piece of discussion that I've seen going around, and it applies particularly to diversity within the CrossFit space. And I want to distinguish between something first. I want to say, do you think the CrossFit community has a diversity issue? And I say that specifically with the CrossFit community because I think people have been, in my opinion, errantly saying, does CrossFit have a diversity problem? When I think the CrossFit as a fitness methodology it's a program. It's agnostic. It doesn't care about gender, race, whatever. But I think the community as a reflection of our society is more what's responsible for our representation and I guess the demographics that exist in it. And so I want to hear from you if you think that there's a diversity issue within CrossFit and what your thoughts about it. CrossFit community.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely is. There's a huge diversity in CrossFit in general. Like, no matter how many gyms you've been to or go to, you're walking into a predominantly white community, period. It's very, 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 very uncomfortable at times.
And so how do you, what are some ways, and because I've been kind of racking my brain too, what are some ways that you think you can, that the community, whether it's gyms,
Yeah.
coaches, affiliates, can start to maybe turn this tide and maybe offer up some things to help maybe change that those demographics? Because you bring up a valuable point. If you walk into a place and you don't see anyone that looks like you, you can instantly feel like that is not a place for you. That is not your home. And it's something that's hard to, and actually that's something that's not exclusive to minorities, right? Like I'll provide this as an anecdote. I come from a agricultural and farming town that a large portion of it is dependent on migrant farm workers. So the Hispanic community is huge there. And my affiliate that I used to run, that is now owned by a friend of mine, you walk in, there's a considerable amount of Hispanics and Mexicans working out there. So the opposite can be true for someone who is white and walks in and suddenly feels like, this is not the music I listen to, this is not the people I identify with. So it goes both ways. But I'm just curious, well, what are some techniques or things that you think that can be done to kind of help that problem?
Yeah, took note. One, so just wrote down a few things about how you can diversify your gym. Of course, I'm a Black gym owner, so therefore, people are going to be Black people are going to be more attracted to come into my space because they see me as an owner, as well as minority in general. So the Hispanic community and stuff like that. And then it's CrossFit, so of course we're going to get the popularity of the white people. So the gym's pretty diverse. But things that people can do: create a culture that allows systematic change. Right? Create a culture in your gym, right? So what I mean by this is, like, don't take the easy road, right? Don't just put CrossFit and just say, okay, like, this is CrossFit and, I'm white and it's for white people. So, like, create the culture in your gym. Go out and get the people that you want to see in your gym. The second one is choose your focus, all right? All right, with what you market and how you market. When you see CrossFit Unorthodox, you see me. Mm-hmm. And then you see all of my members. All right. So therefore, you're seeing both throughout our social media, throughout everything. You know me as the owner. I'm the CrossFit Games athlete. I'm the guy you probably looked up and saw CrossFit and was like, oh, his gym's in my city. Oh, I'm going to go to that gym. So what I mean by that is choose your focus. And when you start marketing, don't just, like, if you look at people's CrossFit pages, their gym pages, they only post white people because that's predominantly what they're marketing to, and that's predominantly who they have. But a lot of gyms have Black people in them, Hispanic people in them. Take photos of them too. Get photos, videos of them too. Take an interview of them too. Post that on your page. Post that on your marketing. All right. Whether it be people that are poverty, whether it be handicapped people, like, show the world that yes, this is a sport that everyone can do. Everyone can come to my gym, whether you're in a wheelchair or whether you're an amputee. It doesn't matter. Like, the diversity, this is for everyone. We're spreading this for everyone, and we're marketing and showing that we're willing to welcome everyone. The biggest thing to me is build networks outside of your bubble. What I mean by that is a lot of people live in their bubble. That means they take their kids to soccer. Their soccer team is predominantly white kids, and their kids play for a predominantly white team with a white coach. When they go to cheerleading, it's all white kids and white people. When they go to their country clubs, nothing but white people. When they go to church, they're at a predominantly white church. Like, you're staying in your bubble, in your comfort zone, and networking and building networks in your comfort zone. Therefore, no one's going to come outside of your gym. No Black person, Hispanic person is going to come into your gym. You're not going to build a diverse gym because you're not networking outside of your bubble. You're not building relationships with other ethnicities and other communities and other types of people. So therefore, that is something that's on the owner that I think the owners can do better of. When you're out, go out and talk to these people that are of other cultures and stuff like that. Like, we have Facebook. In Facebook, they have the calendars and like event page of every event that's going on in your city. Like, I look at the event page and I'm like, you know what? I know I don't know any fucking, I'm not good at the gaming thing where it's like, what is it called? Where you like have to name that movie or like the whatever. I know I'm not good at that. Trivia. Yeah, I know I'm not good at that. There's going to be a whole bunch of probably guys that are good at that I have nothing in common with, and I'm going to try to find something in common with. I'm going to go to the night at when we have the farmers market. I'm going to go down there at the farmers market, and when it's like Hispanic night, you know what I'm saying, where all the Hispanics are down there, and I'm going to dance, and I'm going to have fun, and I'm going to meet people, and then that's how we build this culture and this diversity. When people are like, oh, you own a gym, I've been looking to work out. Oh, you own a grocery store. Man, I've been looking to change my diet and buy some healthy foods. Let me support that. You support this. I just don't think we do that enough in our networking. In our networking, we don't do that enough. We stick in our bubbles and stay in our bubbles. And then the last thing is get everyone on board, show enthusiasm, and encourage people to do the one above, your members. So I'm going to encourage my members to get outside of your bubble. Like the little bubble you live in where it's just like, this is all my Black friends, and I just hang out with Black people, and I go drink with Black people, and I do this with Black people, and you know, my kid plays for a Black football team. It's like, stop, like go interact with someone else, like let your kid like do something. Like I don't know, like it's just get out of that bubble that you're in to create a diverse community in your gym, and then just accommodate for everyone. What I mean by that, we thought about something in different ways of price marketing kind of at the gym and pay for membership at the gym. We thought about doing different things. We do discounts every now and then where we'll throw out a special where if someone can't afford regular membership, it's like, oh, they got a special for 3 months, maybe I can get in now. And then they come in under a special and it's over, but they found that it is a diverse place. They love it. They can't start their day without it. They can't have it. It's like, okay, I'll pay the extra $40. Like I'll pay that extra money because, you know, the coaching was great. You know, I really enjoyed the music and I really enjoyed the conversation. And now I got a white friend. Now I got a white friend that I go to the bar with and I drink with and I hang out with. And, you know, I got to come to the gym now. So we use these different things in our price range to accommodate different demographics of people that may not be able to afford it. Yes, it's temporary and yes, it's not a full membership, but it's just something so that we can accommodate and say like, okay, yes, I know Joe Schmo's dad over here makes, you know, $250,000 a year, you know, in one job and then has a side job and he probably income's $500,000 a year. He's still going to pay the same price of our membership. I'm not going to up it on him, but I know this guy over here can barely pay for Lifetime or for Anytime Fitness, which is $8.99 a month or whatever. You know, I got to find a way to target him, get him in the door so then we can show him that this is something he needs to do. And then out of that, that person will find a way. He will find a way to pay that regular membership.
Yeah.
He will make some changes in his or her life to say, this is important to me. I need to be here. And I think that's what we need to do. But those are just ways that you can, you know, diversify your gym and reach out to other communities and cultures of people so that CrossFit becomes exactly what we want it to become, inclusive, right?
Yeah. I think you bring up, I really like some of the things you brought up in that last point into, because I think it works in two ways, because I think there's a cultural battle that exists to especially with some of the minority communities where they just simply don't value exercise and the health and fitness that exercise provides at the same level that other people that might have the basic necessities taken care of on a day-to-day basis, so they can look outwardly to those things that are seen as extracurriculars like a CrossFit or anything like that. And it's something that it's you know, it's like I'll be honest, like most of my Mexican family, they don't care about the gym. They don't care about health and fitness. They're too busy working a blue collar job and trying to make ends meet and stuff like that. So they don't understand the value necessarily that, you know, something like an exercise and strength and conditioning program or even something like CrossFit can benefit to them. But there has to be a way, like you said, maybe through those adjusted rates and through those opportunities to create a diverse group, that you can battle that, I guess, that cultural ideology that that this isn't something that's worth my money and time because I have other more pressing issues at hand. And that's that's tough, but I think that's a valuable lesson that more people can learn from for sure.
Yeah, sure.
Easy, you mentioned about getting out of your bubble, and that is always a very uncomfortable thing to do. How do people do that and come across as genuine and not like, I'm doing this because I see dollar signs here and I'm just trying to tick a box?
Yeah, for sure. That's tough. And that was the biggest thing about CrossFit, right? CrossFit hasn't posted anything. Do we know where they stand? I don't know, right? Does it kind of make me feel kind of way? Yeah, it kind of makes me feel a certain way, But with that being said, it's like, how do I get out of my bubble and make it genuine, right? I'm gonna answer that first. It's basically, it's tough. Like, let's say, for instance, for me in general, I'm gonna use myself. I make money from the CrossFit community. It's predominantly white. Most Black people that I grew up with or know don't do CrossFit, don't really know about CrossFit, and don't buy a lift heavy often as an everyday teacher, other than simply to support me. That's it. They do it. My friends buy it because they simply are like, yo, Black owned, bro, I'm with you for me. But I'm selling to predominantly white. So for other people to step out of their bubble, it may be a financial gain that they get from it. That's okay. Me making money does not discredit my genuineness for anything that I do. It just allows me to provide for my family. And if I like providing for my family, then goddamn it, we friends because we making money together. Or we like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so like when people get this like idea where it's like, oh, it's not genuine, you're just making money off of these people. It's like, well, you got to make money. You got to take care of your family. But anyone that walks in your gym, you care about. You just like you care about. That person showed enough care to pay a membership at my gym. I care about you. Yeah, like you want to support me. How can I support you? So it is a tough thing stepping outside of the bubble, right? But it is a must-do thing because you don't know when that time is going to come. Like right now, where it's like, okay, everybody's uncomfortable now. Like, I'm just going to use this as a prime example. When I first met Noah Olsen, no one liked Noah Olsen. Like, no one liked him. It was weird where it was like, no one likes this kid. He's super cool. Like, I like him. Like, and I think I liked him more because no one liked him. I think I liked him more because everyone's like had a problem with him. And in my gym, I would hear people say things like, oh, that kid's cocky, he's this, he's that, And it wasn't until I gave them examples of why he may be that way and why he may speak this way or think this way until their minds open, right? And it was only because I have a different perspective. I am outside of the bubble of what people think a Noah Olsen should behave like and act like. Therefore, now you have a different perspective. Now he's cool. Now I like him. Noah Olsen is taking that same step. He's stepping outside. He hangs with Chandler, trains with Chandler all the time. Me and Noah have a great relationship. He has a relationship with my daughter where they see each other and they joke around. He's taking the time to step out of his bubble. Is it uncomfortable? I guarantee at home he is sitting down paranoid, like, am I saying the right thing? Is this going to come off wrong? Will I lose a sponsor? But at the point of him saying something tells me that he's a part of a greater cause and he doesn't care about the family. I can respect that. It's going to be uncomfortable. And it's going to be hard for people to come out of their bubble. But every day you have to walk around and bump into Hispanics and whites and Blacks. Like you got to figure it out.
And you're not always going to please everybody, right? I mean, and in the case of Noah, he's not always going to please everyone. But you know what? The other side of that is that, the people that are willing to actually step outside of the bubble get a better understanding of who you are.
That's it. And that's all it is. And that's why it's kind of like, oh, why is it CrossFit saying something? Where do you stand? Where are you at? Like, you speak about health and wellness. Well, I'm pretty sure these people that are looting, rioting, and upset and rage are mentally they're broken. That's a part of your health crisis. Mm-hmm. Guess what can help that? CrossFit, working out, fitness. Guess what's helped me every single day to calm me down? Lifting, getting my heart rate up, letting off some steam, working out. And so, like, now's the best time to speak up.
man.
Yeah. I mean, Easy, we appreciate you doing this. And, for me, another thing I've come away with during this whole time is like, we have got to start talking to each other. We just have to start having conversations. And, this goes back to kind of what you were saying about getting out of your bubble and why maybe people stay in, is that they are afraid. And you talked about this earlier, that saying of messing up, and I don't want to make the situation worse. So I'm just going to sit here on the sidelines and I'm not going to get involved because I don't want to say something. I don't want to engage. I don't want to upset anybody. So it's just easier if I stay in my comfort zone. But I really feel, man, if we can just get out of that and just start talking and have this understanding that, what, maybe some of the things I say are going to be wrong, but I am willing to listen to you and say, okay, this is why it's wrong. And this is how I can make it better. And
Yes.
I just it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be awkward. But if we can all just make an effort to talk to somebody that maybe we haven't spoken to before, who's different, and just get out of the bubble and just start that conversation, that is a concrete step that we can all take that might not seem like much right now.
Yeah.
But in the long run is going to make a difference.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And that's the hard part, man. I don't want to bring up the situation, but on social media, a lady had used a term that enraged people. Mm-hmm. And her company is now feeling that of what she said. And I don't want to bring up any names or anything, but because of her mistake, it allowed me to understand that the N-word is not the only derogatory term that's floating around here. But because I'm Black, I only thought, I sat down and I was like, what word could I say to a white person? What word can I say to get an outrage from a white person? There is none. What word could I say to a Mexican person? Well, I now know that word. I now know that term. And even though I knew it before, I didn't know it was very derogatory directed to that culture of people. I didn't know that. But because of someone's mistake, opening up the conversation and me talking to a Hispanic friend, I was like, oh, okay, I got you now. That won't happen. I won't make that mistake. But I had to have that conversation. A mistake was made, something happened, I had to have that conversation. But before, I thought it was a joke because I didn't know the word was directed toward a certain demographic of people. I thought it was broad around just people in general that have maybe migrated over or came to our country. I found out what that word meant, looked it up, started talking about it, and I was like, thank you to that lady, even though you're getting budgeting for it. Thank you. And at the same time, now I had a conversation with my friends that we have a clear understanding that is not something that a term that can be used around or in my facility or in this place, in my space at all. And it wasn't until we had that conversation. It wasn't until I talked to that person of that race, of that culture, until I was like, okay, there is other words outside of N-word. There is, I'm Black. I thought the N-word was the only one. I'm like, we're the only ones. No, it's not. So the conversations have to be had. You have to have the uncomfortable conversations. Call a friend. Talk to someone you know that you're comfortable saying something that may be a mistake with. But yeah, you gotta have the conversation. And you have to let people know where you stand. And that's just where I'm at. There has been a lot of this going on, and I have not said anything because I was in a position where I was like, man, I don't think people are gonna like what I got to say. I don't the community, predominantly white community I'm around. People I was raised Islam. My mother is out of Black Panther type movie. People ain't gonna like how I was raised and what I got to say. Let me calm myself down, think about the situation, and then state it. What happens? Oh, the situation's kind of blowed under the rugs, not much about it anymore. And it just got to the point where I was like, cried enough about this. I've prayed enough about this. I haven't said anything in hopes that things would change and people would get a better understanding or maybe here, and it just hasn't been. And I sat down when this situation or these last 3 situations happened back to back, and I said, I don't think anyone in CrossFit really understands. I don't think the demographic of people that I'm around know how I feel or know how any Black person feels. And so I sat down with my wife, she gave me some really good advice, and I thank her for that. For my mother, asked her a lot of tough questions about my childhood and my past to learn more about myself and why I think and I am the way I am. Through that, I said, I'm not going to be silent anymore. I'm not going to, any injustice happens, I'm going to talk about it. And I'm going to bring it to the light. And it just disturbs me when things happen and it's like, don't be that way. Like, don't talk about the community like that, or don't talk about this community like that. And then something pops up about Black, and it's like, I don't want to say anything wrong. Like, okay, I see where you stand, and maybe that will change. I don't think anything less of you. You're just not the energy that I want to be around right now. Mm-hmm. You may change. Your views may change. We're human. We're gonna be persuaded to think different ways, and that may happen in a month, 2 months, or down the road. Right now, I just don't want that energy. I don't want to be around you. You don't understand where I'm coming from, what I'm saying, and what's going on, and you're too afraid to speak up because you might say the wrong thing. You don't want to call or text me because you might say the wrong thing. I don't want that energy. So when I see you, I might not shake your hand. I see you, I might just walk past you. So it's where I feel right now, and about everything going on. Better to have the conversation.
Well, Easy, listen, man, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. We really appreciate everything you had to say. And I have certainly been learning a lot this past week about things that, I can do better and ways that, I can make a positive change. And I hope people who listen to this are thinking the same thing, because I think we got to start somewhere.
For sure. And like I said, man, it might not change now. It may not change tomorrow. Some of the things that can help it change right away, of course, are passing laws and doing things like that. But now that the conversation's open, more people are aware, more people are understanding of what's going on. It's the only time that things will change.
Totally, man. We really appreciate you. It's a tough situation. It's a tough discussion for many, but we appreciate you being willing to share your thoughts with us and provide your point of view and your experience and everything like that in a time when I think it's needed more than ever.
Yeah. And I thank you guys for having me on, man. Let me use your platform to talk about the situation.
Yeah, it's our pleasure.
Anytime, brother.
Yep.